Hey, what's happening? Happy Wednesday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early. It's 3:30 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. I've been wanting to do this video for about 2 weeks. I had this conversation at the end of September, I believe, with somebody in town here, a man that's about similar to me, but he's about 60 years old, about 5 years older than me. And I believe he's on disability. No big deal, people. I don't have anything against disability or anything. But it's going to come into play in a second. What I want to mention this too. Whenever I don't make a good debater, a lot of times, almost all the time, whenever I get into conversations with people like my MAGA barber, I sit back and I don't argue a lot of times I don't argue. I let the other person feel comfortable. Once you just kind of nod, you don't argue, you don't put people on the defensive. Their guard comes down and you start to see their real motivations. And that's when then you can get a clear picture of what motivates them, what sets them off, what they're scared of, and then you attack. When I used to get into physical altercations, I used this same method too. And it works. It works good for me. All right. So I had this conversation it's probably I thought it was around the end of September. I was in a political conversation. I've joked around with this person before. And this person came out and said something that just got me thinking about two Republican stances with Election Day coming up. These two Republican stances, and I'll have all the links down below on both these strong talking points for Republicans, conservatives, Trump supporters, MAGA. Number one is, I'm going to call it the procedure, in this country. Number two is cutting back Medicare, Medicaid, what they term as welfare. I looked up because welfare is kind of an antiquated term. Welfare includes 7 programs in the United States, and the main ones are Medicaid, SSI or disability, SNAP benefits, temporary assistance for needy families, the earned income tax credit, and there's a couple more. So these are two of the strong stances. Like I said, all the links will be down below. I'll get into it more in a second. But I'm having a conversation with this guy. And he says this to me. He comes out and he doesn't say it in these words. This is somebody saying their opinion to me, conservative Republican. That he's just had it. He's had it with this particular, he named a group of people that he believes that are having children irresponsibly. And he's sick, he's sick of them being on what he calls welfare. This is when I had to speak up. I said, wait a minute, aren't you on disability? You get SNAP benefits? Yeah, of course. And I said, well, that's considered welfare. Well, that's completely different, he says. This is something out of my control, and I'm not going to say my opinion. I hate when his disability, I'm not going to get into it. If I think he's disabled, it doesn't really matter. But so he's actually collecting welfare or disability and SSI. But he's angry that other people are getting what he calls welfare for having too many kids. Okay. So but he was a little more specific about the people. I'm not going to I don't want to get into specifics about the groups, but he named this specific group. You know what I'm getting at here. And he thinks it's completely different. And then I told him right there, I said, dude, you're voting against your own best interests. He's on supplemental security, disability. He's getting SNAP benefits. And from what he told me, quite a considerable amount, like the full amount, which is over $200, $300 a month. And he's voting for Republicans that want to cut Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, or I hate when they're called entitlements. I'll get more into that in another video. When my father died, I collected Social Security. And he's voting for people that are going to cut this. The links will be down below. Republicans have been talking more about this lately. When our debt ceiling reaches a specific amount, the Republicans are threatening to not. Trump brought this idea up, coincidentally, to not raise the tax limit I mean, to not raise the debt ceiling limit. So America would default on our debts, which would cause worldwide calamity. And Republicans are already threatening this for the next, I thought it was in the fall of 2023. Somehow I think it's sooner than that, but they're already threatening to do this because their goal is to cut the Social Security program or raise the age to 70. So people have been paying in their whole life. People like my age have been paying in your whole life, thinking you're going to retire at 65 or 66 or 67, and now you got an extra 3 years. We're keeping your money. We're not giving it back to you. You got to work an extra 3 years and stuff like that, and other things like that. But it got me thinking about two of Republicans and conservatives' main stances. One is about the procedure. Now I got all the links down below for this. Just recently, there's a story right down below from USA Today about a woman in, I believe, there's a couple of these stories that are just crazy. I think this is in Louisiana. This woman was in her 17th week. I got to be careful, you know what I'm saying. And her water broke. And there was zero chance for viability. And the doctors were unable to do anything. The link's right down below. This just happened like last week. It happened again in Florida, I believe it was, and the woman had to travel to New York. You've heard this story over and over. Like I said, the links are right down below for this. And I never thought I would live in a country where a woman goes to the hospital in a life-threatening situation, and the doctor said, we can't help you. It's illegal for us to help, due to our certain people's religious beliefs. Sorry, you might die. I never thought I'm living in that country right now. But I started thinking about these two stances. All right, I brought this up before too. With there's millions of alcoholics and addicts across this country, and they know that they can't raise children. People are going to continue to be addicts and alcoholics, and they're going to continue to be intimate. But now in 14 states, they're going to be forced to have children. What's going to happen? These people are going to continue to use. I tried quitting drugs 13 times over like 2 decades before I finally, thank God I didn't ruin anybody else's life. But I started thinking about the two things: cutting Social Security, or especially SNAP benefits or temporary assistance to needy families. And I started thinking about these things. So Republicans want to cut assistance to feed people, and at the same time, they're forcing people to put themselves into deeper poverty. People are going to continue to love each other and be intimate and be fruitful and multiply. That's going to happen. And people that know that they can't, that are already in poverty, that are already at the very limit of working 3-4 jobs just to feed the children they have, and are going to be forced to have more children. All right. And at the same time, these same people are cutting back any assistance, want to cut back any assistance to feed these people. This is what I call an untenable situation. What do you think is going to happen in this country? And we're talking about hundreds of thousands, millions of people. This is already going to start happening right now in this country. People that already know that they can't afford a bigger family are being forced to have bigger families. And this is, by the way, the SNAP benefits, 37% of people that receive SNAP benefits, the majority are Caucasian. 26% are African American, and it goes down from there. I believe 13% are Hispanic. So the biggest receivers of welfare are Caucasian people, and it's the same. But my point is the same, though. It doesn't matter. Well, it affects one group more than the other, but it's going to affect both groups of people. You're being forced into a situation that you can't afford, that you can't survive in. What do you think? I read a lot, and I've heard about true hunger. I've read about true hunger. Knock on wood, I've never been hungry, where it hurts. But I've read about it. People will do anything, when they're hungry. The Dahmer pass. I'm not going there. I'm not saying that it's going to be a possibility. But people are going to do what they need to do to eat, to feed their kids. What do you think the country is going to turn into? It's already happening. 14 states already have this situation where people that can't afford children are being forced into a worse situation with no choice. And yet, the same group of people wants to cut any assistance to these people. Untenable. It's an untenable situation. Let me know what you think. You guys have a good Wednesday.